Welcome to the latest episode of The Independent. Pete Sampson, joined us always by my co-host Matt Fortuna, previewing the Super Bowl, as Marcus Freeman would describe it. The rest of us just call it Notre Dame-Stanford. We're doing this on Tuesday, so we're pre-college football playoff rankings tonight, so we can just speculate about all that. But to help us speculate, our guest today is Bill Connelly from ESPN. You know him from the S&P Plus. Does a great job sort of making sense of the madness of college football. And we had a spirited conversation, and although we were all kind of on the same side of it, about Notre Dame and Miami, because I seem to see a lot of feedback about having Eric McLean on last week. So after going vibes last week, Matt, this week we went numbers. And I thought it was pretty enlightening.
I thought it was lightning. I thought it was a nice balance, because that's what we tried to bring here, Pete. We had the players' perspective last week. We had the analytical perspective this week. I think I know which one Notre Dame fans will appreciate more. That said, Eric is a fellow Baldy, so it's hard for me and you to go against him. But you mentioned the Super Bowl. It's actually the Legends Trophy. There were all sorts of rumors around this time last year that this game would be played at the Rose Bowl. It will not be. Did you know the backstory of the Legends Trophy?
I sure don't, although I kind of want to print out all of the trophies and then bring them to Access some night and ask the players if they can identify what they are. I'm pretty sure the Legends Trophy would be unidentifiable by most.
Yeah, they're between Notre Dame's abundance of rivals and I think Minnesota, the Big Ten, has all these rivalry trophies that no one actually acknowledges.
It involves Redwood, maybe? The Legends Trophy involves some Redwood, right?
No. Yes, Redwood with an Irish Crystal Bowl.
Yes.
Where was I this year? Oh, it was Ohio State, Illinois, who had not played in 10 years. I forget the name of it was the Buck, the Eli Buck. And it was a turtle. It was literally a turtle that was just sitting there, and someone from Ohio State picked it up. But yeah, I mean, that's what makes college football great. The civil conflict, wherever it may be, Bob Bianco. Yeah. But the backstory, I did read up on this week. From Stanford's game notes, the Legends Trophy was created by the Notre Dame Club of the San Francisco Bay Area and is made appropriately from Northern California Redwood with an Irish Crystal Bowl. The Legends Trophy is named in honor of the 1925 Rose Bowl meeting, which was said by sports writers to contain more legends on one field than had ever played the game.
Huh.
Just like 1925. And Andrew Luck plays.
Yeah. It is... I don't know. Have you covered a Notre Dame game at Stanford before?
No, I actually have not. I've fallen ill multiple times. Thank you, God.
I mean, some of them have been great. We saw Andrew Luck out there one time. The 2015 game was amazing. You had Will Fuller, Christian McCaffrey in it. There also have been some duds when they played out there 2 years ago. I think it was maybe, 33% full, and 67% of those 33% of fans were Notre Dame fans. So yeah, it's a cool little venue, but the fact that it has a trophy, that it involves the word Legends, and Marcus Freeman called it the Super Bowl, it's a fun game. But Marcus Freeman is trying real hard to keep Notre Dame locked in this week, which, to his credit, he did a bang-up job last week against Syracuse.
Much like Super Bowl, this game will also conclude on a Sunday.
Yes. But don't bump.
They're 4-1 at home. I didn't realize that until Marcus Freeman said it yesterday. Again, none of these opponents were quite of Notre Dame's caliber, but they did beat Florida State and send that program on a tailspin ever since. They tried to get Mike Norvell fired. They didn't. They did get Justin Wilcox fired this week by beating Cal in the game. And I always wonder about that dynamic too for Stanford, not to go all Narduzzi, but that is their rival, right?
Yes. Yes.
But I mean, look, if you told me we were on a group text with someone who's on this pod a lot, all watching and live texting about the Stanford-Hawaii Week 0 game, and when Hawaii won that, we were all like, okay, Stanford is not going to win a football game this year. And to their credit, they've won 4 of them.
Yeah, I give Frank Reich quite a bit of credit for getting this pulled around. I mean, when they were starting Gulbranson earlier in the year, former Oregon State Sun Bowl legend Ben Gulbranson, you're like, all right, this is 0-11 nightmare material here, and they're competent now. That shouldn't really matter to Notre Dame. I think if you rank the teams Notre Dame has played this year, Stanford would still be in the bottom 4. But there was a time when you thought they would be the bottom with a bullet. And that has not proven to be the case at all. Look, I think Notre Dame has still played 3 Power 4 conference teams without a Power 4 conference win. I would have thought Stanford would have been one of those teams, and they're definitely not. So, there's enough there to be like, all right, you can't just like roll the balls out there. But if you show up, like David Bailey's not walking through that door. He's in Lubbock now. There's no Toby Gerhart, or was it like Chase Thomas and Shane Scove and like they've had some
Solomon Thomas
dudes out there. Yeah. They had offensive tackles who were killers for a while.
Nerd Nation, like intellectual brutality. Remember Brian Kelly would talk this game up and be like, we want our players to be gentlemen's off the field. What do you call it? Gentlemen's off the field and something else on the field.
Yeah. Yeah. The party in the backfield stuff. It was a real thing for a while. It's not a real thing anymore. It's to the point on Monday in Marcus Freeman's press conference, he was trying to talk up Stanford and was like, look, in the last 4 meetings with Stanford, we've been tied or trailing in the first quarter. And I was like, I think I gave him a like, what? Well, you have to be tired in the first quarter at some point. And then he was like, at the end of the first quarter.
7-0 Stanford, right? Out there.
I think that Stanford did score first, and then it was just a bloodbath. So I just don't see any reason why Notre Dame should spit the bit on Saturday night / Sunday morning. Notre Dame's playing really well, and I asked Marcus Freeman this during the week, and I wish I had phrased it differently because the answer wasn't that great. Just about, does this just sort of feel like last year? If it doesn't, like how could it not? Because start rough early, different set of circumstances, but they're peaking it away in October and then through November. And this, I think, sort of gets, touched on this with Bill Connelly a little bit. Like, they're playing as well as anybody in the country right now. And it doesn't necessarily matter who you're playing against. If you're beating somebody 70-7 or you're beating a ranked team 38-15? 35-15. So
which one?
Pittsburgh, and then you
37-9
hammer Navy.
37-15, I guess. Yeah,
yeah.
Keep saying 9.
They're just playing really well, and I don't see any reason why that would abate in any way on Saturday.
Sorry if you see me looking at my phone a lot. All the awards finalists for the College Football Award Show just came out. Finalists for the Jim Thorpe Award: Mansour Delane from LSU, Caleb Downs from Ohio State, and Leonard Moore from Notre Dame for the best defensive back in college football. Finalists for the Doak Walker Award: Jeremiyah Love, best running back, is on that list. He's also a finalist for the Maxwell Award, which is for the best overall player. Just 3 finalists, the only non-quarterback on that list. And then the Davey O'Brien Award, CJ Carr actually was not on that. It was, I just had it here for a second, but it was not CJ Carr, which I thought he might have had an outside chance. I don't know how many
Sean
people.
Alexander, what finalist list for freshman of the year?
I don't see that, but that is another award that started a couple of years ago. Okay. We should start an award. Doug Maurice, our colleague over at Bill and Doug on Ohio State football, proposed building an award out of like the best player. Like there's a Tyler Rose Campbell Trophy or something for the best player with any Texas ties, and he wants one with anything for the best Ohio ties. Like there's got to be something similar we could come up with, right? Get home run.
Yeah, I think we could and build in a independent bump for, if you come on this show, you'll automatically be a finalist for the award.
There you go. I was going to say
piece of paper you could hang in your kitchen or something.
I was going to say Jason Garrett got one because he's going to be calling the Thanksgiving game with Mike Tirico, but he actually has not been on this pod, despite how much you've talked to him and how much we've talked about him. Maybe we can make that happen.
Yeah. Playoff rankings tonight. You any big as is all the top 14 won? I have a hard time seeing them changing anything.
Wonder if Oregon jumps Texas Tech at 5, which wouldn't really affect too much. That's probably it. Does Utah get knocked for its too close for comfort win over Kansas State? Does that mean Miami moves up? Does that mean Notre Dame and Miami are in the same quadrant of teams that they pair together 9 through 12, and does that mean head-to-head comes into play? I'm like basically reading from the committee handbook here and overthinking it because it probably shouldn't and won't matter, but those are my questions after last week. I mean, last week's always a boring week because it's SEC, FCS week. Yeah. Pitt beating Georgia Tech is what qualified as a like holy crap moment of the week, but I don't think that'll have much impact on this week's playoff rankings.
No, it keeps Notre Dame with 2 ranked wins. Which, like Pitt, they had knocked Pitt out, and now Pitt's back. So Narduzzi helping out Notre Dame again as usual. Just as that's his MO. But yeah, I'm with you. I feel like Notre Dame will stay where it is, and as the sort of the math part of the college football season reaches the business end, I think like FEI and SB Plus hold more weight to me now than they do in October or even November 1st. And FEI, which Brian Fremeau, who works at Notre Dame, actually runs. He's got Notre Dame 4th, A&M 10th, Miami 11th, and S&P Plus, which is Bill Connelly, Notre Dame 5th, A&M 7th, Miami 11th. There was I think it was Parker Fleming who does like the "How bad did you get beat" graphic that we were joking about. But he also does sort of a offensive and defensive efficiency graphic, which is just sort of a quadrant. And, if you're up and to the right, that means you're efficient in both. If you're down and to the left, it means you're inefficient in both. And he's got Notre Dame and Miami's defense essentially the same. And he's got Notre Dame clearly better than Miami on offense. And yet I saw it shared on social media as evidence that Notre Dame and Miami are comparable. And I feel like I'm getting to the point with this where I feel like Notre Dame and Miami are political candidates. It's a week before Election Day.
What all this is.
Notre Dame is up 10 points in the polls, and Miami's being like, but we won the debate 3 months ago. And I don't know. I thought Conley's point, and not to step all over it, but like college football is such a low data point sport. We get so little to compare teams against one another. So to reduce it all the way down to one game seems kind of stupid.
I tend to agree. I wouldn't completely dismiss it. And I think you could look at the larger picture of college football and data points in a number of different ways. Again, not to spoil the interview, but he makes the case for Ashton Genty over Travis Hunter last year based on numbers, which I don't see eye to eye on, because I think what Travis Hunter did was historic and needs to be viewed in that lens. Like, it was literally incomparable. But it felt like this wasn't a debate, and then the committee kind of screwed up by putting Miami at 18, which I thought was a slap in the face to them. And I think they've kind of course corrected slowly, which again doesn't really matter. I understand teams in front of them lose, but it's not like Miami's done anything the last couple of weeks where you're like, oh wait, they should jump 5 spots.
Yeah, they haven't had a 70-7 game.
No, and again, I think they kind of screwed up the first time. They've slowly corrected it. It's gotten within like striking range of, hey, by the way, they beat that team that's sitting pretty at number 9 right now. Miami fans, go get them. ACC Twitter account, go get them. And I really don't mind all that as far as like fighting for your team and presenting team A, team B, and head to head and all that. Any fan of any team would be doing the same thing if they were in that position. But I don't know. When I'm ranking teams, like I put Notre Dame at 10 in my poll this week. Do I think they're the 10th best team in the country? No, I think they might be even top 3 as far as like who I would pick, as far as power ratings on a neutral field. But I'm trying to find a healthy balance of like the record and what you've done this season, because you do have so few data points. Like, those data points need to count. Like, go back to the offseason quarterback discussion we had, right? Like, by all accounts, Kenny Minchie was outplaying CJ Carr in camp. They named CJ Carr the starter. I said then, and I believe it to this day, whether they would say it publicly or not, like, we're looking at this as who's going to give us the best chance of beating Ohio State in January, not who's going to give us the best chance of beating Miami in week 1. And that was a long-term play they had to make. Not saying CJ Carr was the reason they lost the Miami game, but they didn't trust him enough in that game the way they do now in November to go out and win them these games, which is why I also think if they played again, Notre Dame would win that game. I wouldn't say convincingly, but I'd be very comfortable picking them as a favorite in that game.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I think the other projection thing you mentioned, sort of the Doak Walker stuff, Jeremiyah Love and the Heisman. On the Athletic, we sort of do that straw poll. Matt, you're familiar with that.
Heard about it,
and it was, I mean, Love has been moving up and moving up and moving up, and now he's second. He's over Diego Pavia, who plays Tennessee this weekend. Look, if Vanderbilt beats Tennessee and Diego Pavia goes off, for all my Vanderbilt blinders that I have, I would understand someone voting for Diego Pavia over Jeremiyah Love. I realize one's going to be a top 10 pick and the other one might be undrafted. But like what's happening at Vanderbilt, if they actually went 10-2, I think that would be just an incredible story.
We may have something to get very mad about in regards to playoff snubs on this podcast. It will not be Notre Dame. I think they're in 10-2 Vanderbilt being left out. And I understand there are only so many spots, but a program that's never had a 10-win season in their history to go 10-2 in the SEC a year after 3 9-3 teams were complaining that they didn't get in from the SEC, that would suck, plain and simple. I get it. Like, no one's trying to cheer for the 13th best team in the country the way they are with the 5th, but that would be terrible. Pavia had, I think, 500 plus total yards from scrimmage and 6 total touchdowns last week. So, like, do that again on the road to Tennessee.
In a time slot where people can watch the game.
What time do they play? I mean, not 10:30.
Not 10:30 p.m.
Fair enough. That'll be interesting. It was like, we're human. We're all hoping Clark Lee gets in the playoff and comes on this podcast and previews it with us again. Maybe we can get Diego Pavia on. And we get Diego on with him and put a parental advisory warning on the Apple and Spotify versions of this live show. But
they play at 3:30.
Okay.
On ESPN.
Actually, people will watch because they'll be done with Michigan, Ohio State, and they'll be flipping the channels for something new. You said Jeremiyah Love was second in the Athletic. He's second on DraftKings right now, plus 350. Front runner is Fernando Mendoza at minus 115. Pavia is fourth at plus 550. It's interesting because, like, I feel like the case has sort of been made for Jeremiyah Love, and he'll have one more data point late night Saturday. I'd still much rather be playing on that conference championship weekend to kind of present your body of work. But I do think the loser of Sayin Mendoza might find themselves on the outside looking in. And I do think Sayin he's been great. I'm not knocking him, but like, he ain't everything we thought he was when he doesn't have Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate to throw the ball to.
Yeah.
Like, it's different. And someone's got to get them the ball. Will Howard did it last year. Sayin did it even better this year. But Ohio State looks a lot more human. Then again, like, if all these guys play this week and they hang 40 in Ann Arbor and then beat the number 2 team in the country next week, maybe they split the votes. I don't know. I feel more confident than ever saying it will not be someone from Ohio State, though.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think Love, probably I agree. Like, he's done, I don't think there's a whole lot more he can do. If he goes for 250 at Stanford, I guess finishing as the nation's leading rusher would be, a pretty good resume line there. The Notre Dame single season rushing record would be a good resume line. I think is 130-ish away from that. Those things matter, but I think, what kind of highlight can he put up at Stanford where you're like, well, I've never seen that before. Like, he's got all of those highlights have happened, and they've been great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not sure what else he can do. I mean, unless he's going to like literally hurdle the Stanford tree on the way to the end zone. Like, I don't know what else he can do. Maybe he can disrupt the Stanford band at halftime. I know a lot of Notre Dame fans would dig that. So he's done what he can do, and it's been amazing. He's the best running back in the country. I think it comes down to, like, does Mendoza light up Ohio State or not? I wouldn't bet on him to light up Ohio State because Ohio State's really hard to light up. But if Fernando Mendoza goes 13 of 28 against Ohio State and they lose 28-10, kind of hard to say that's a Heisman clinching performance.
Yeah, I mean, that's I think that's going to be a much better game than people think. The look-ahead lines have
I hope it
gone
will
anywhere
be.
between 3 and 5.5, and they'll be home technically in Indianapolis for that game too. I thought you were going somewhere else with the Stanford tree and Jeremiah Love and maybe celebrations. I'm glad you didn't. This is a family podcast.
It's a
But
pine tree, very uncomfortable.
Notre Dame running back had 238 yards last time they played at Stanford. So there's a reachable goal that's not insane for him to obtain. And honestly, like whether he wins it or not, obviously everyone hopes he wins it. It's kind of working out, knock on wood, perfectly for Notre Dame, right? Like this guy might win the Heisman. He had 8 carries on senior day.
Yeah.
Like, remember, he was hurt all of last year's postseason. Again, knock on wood, that shouldn't be the case this year. Like, he's up for all these national awards. Everyone's talking about him. He's stuffing the stat sheet. He's about as likable a guy in this situation as you could possibly come across. Very easy guy to root for. And oh, by the way, Notre Dame is on fire right now. Like, put up another 100, maybe 200-yard game against Stanford. I say that flippantly, even though it's not an easy thing to do in college football, but for him, he's making it look easy. And then rest up for the postseason and get your ticket to New York. Maybe you win it, which would be awesome. Maybe you don't. There's no shame in that. This is not an indictment of what I thought his skills were, but like, I just did not think it would be possible to be in this position because I didn't think he'd have enough workload, so to speak, to get there as a running back. And he really hasn't, but he's done above and beyond what's asked of an elite running back to do in the very limited action he's gotten.
Yeah, it's at, I think, at 185 carries so far this season, which is, I want to say last year he was like 160. It was, last year, it was not, I think his season high last year was 16 against Virginia, which you're like, how is that even possible? Yeah, he finished last year with 162 carries on 236 snaps. This year, he's roughly 30 fewer snaps than all of last season, but 23 more carries. So I think, they've been intentional about how they use him more than they were a year ago. That's, I think, smart business, like kind of a smoke him if you got him situation. I think Love's, they've done a very nice job threading the needle on Love. And I don't even want to say this, but I'll say it, like, the season finale last year was when the meniscus happened. So it's like, I just say that, like, you just never know when stuff can, like, trip you up. KVA's situation, with the knee injury, out for the year with that. We talked about that on the post-game podcast. You just never know when stuff like that's going to sneak up. But Love feels like a bullet train and freight train all at the same time at the moment.
Just adding this comment that just came in from Archer 00 Arrow. Love will score, then perform CPR on a cheerleader, then ask her to marry him. That'll win the Doak Walker for sure. Oh, yeah, I think he's going to win the Doak Walker. Yeah, like, take that, Ian Johnson. Don't wait till the bowl game to do the proposal. Do it when Heisman voters are still watching and have not submitted their vote yet. That's one way to do it. M. Sully 141 adds 2 in a row. Hopefully love this year in Carr next. Dear baby touchdown. Jesus, make it happen. I've said this all year. Like, the CJ Carr hype train offseason from everybody is going to be out of control. He'll be on every preseason Heisman list next year. Of that, I am 1,000% sure. We will get to our interview with Bill Connelly in a second. Before that, I want to tell you about a little company called Home Run and Pizza you might be familiar with. Pete, at the end of a full day of college football where I forgot to eat because I'm watching every game and covering them too, I could house an entire Home Run and Pizza all by myself. Grab it out of the freezer and in no time catch up on what I should have been eating during halftime. I might even have room for 2 of them, considering how late I'll be up on Saturday night / Sunday morning to do this podcast.
Home Run and Pizza, kids and youth sports. You're traveling all over the place. Volleyball, basketball, soccer. It is a lifesaver for a family on the go. Friend of our pod, friend of our freezer in the Sampson household, Home Run and Pizza.
I'd like to also thank our friends at Obvious Shirts, OBVIOUS, SHIRTS.com. great podcast merchandise, t-shirts, quarter zips, hoodies, crew necks, and much more. We will have playoff lines coming out as soon as that bracket is unveiled and we know what Notre Dame is up against. Perhaps at some point, a rematch of last year's state championship game, which was a best seller. Thanks as always to our friends at Obvious Shirts.
And our friends at Roback.com, RHOBACK.com, promo code Irish for 20% off your first order. Hoodies, quarter zips, polos, joggers, pants, tees, everything you need for an active lifestyle at Roback.com. They have officially licensed Notre Dame apparel. If you've been to a Notre Dame game, you have seen the game day polo around and Notre Dame hoodies. Great looking Notre Dame officially licensed apparel at Roback.com. Promo code Irish for 20% off your first order.
We will now welcome in ESPN's Bill Connelly.
Pleased to be welcomed into the pod today, Bill Connelly from ESPN. He's the author of Forward Progress, the definitive guide to the future of college football, which has a picture of Riley Leonard on the front, which like nothing says more future of college football than quarterback power. But the other thing, I want to start with S&P because Notre Dame Miami is the topic that everyone's talking about, certainly in the Notre Dame space and the Miami space. We had Eric McLean on the show last week. More of a vibes check ACC guy, but I hesitate to use the verb like because like is, why math likes Notre Dame is probably not any different than why 2 and 2 like the number 4. It just equals that. So as somebody's into the math part of football, why is Notre Dame where it is? Why is Miami where it is?
I mean, one of those teams has spent a lot more time this year looking like a top 5 team than the other. That's probably the best way to start. I mean, number one, Notre Dame has 2 losses by a combined 4 points to the teams that are currently 7th and 11th in SP plus, and they've won them basically just about all the other games by 20, 30, 40, whatever points. So that's usually a really good combination. Top 10 in points per drive, like 16th in points allowed per drive. These are all very good things. So SP plus, a good predictive algorithm, whichever one you choose, isn't going to care that team A beat team B in week 1. It's going to care which team has looked the best over the course of 11 games. And to me, there's no question about that. Miami picked it up against NC State. They looked okay last week against Virginia Tech, but they just haven't been that dominant this season since that USF game in week 3. Notre Dame's been kind of on a roll in that regard. So therefore, if they were to play this weekend, Notre Dame would be favored by a few points. And I think that's extremely justifiable.
Well, let me ask you this just to play devil's advocate, because I follow a lot of people from both schools, and the Miami argument I keep saying is like, yeah, we're not knocking Notre Dame, but shouldn't their run enhance our win and therefore enhance our resume more? I mean, is there any validity to that?
Well, I think it does. Problem is, what else is their resume? Their second best win is USF, I guess. They lost to, 2 teams that were unranked last week. I'm betting SMU's ranked again this week. But they're, to me, I always get kind of frustrated with head-to-head conversations because we already have a tiny schedule. And then we limit to basically one game mattering about 90% of the discussion. And I hate that. We don't get much time to discuss or much time to figure these teams out. So, the fact that Miami has the win over Notre Dame is the only reason they're in the discussion at all, I think. Their losses are quite a bit worse than a lot of other teams' losses. So, yeah, I mean, I think it does count. I just think it doesn't count enough to, counter everything else going on.
This might be a dumb question because, all the math matters, strength of record, et cetera. But, what do you think matters the most? What do you think is most relevant when you're trying to parse, small sample sizes, like you said, and then kind of order everybody accordingly?
Well, I think one of the problems that we end up having during playoff discussions every single year, number one, it's because we asked the committee chair to go on camera and just recite whatever he heard in the room as if that was why was team A over team B? Well, I heard this thing said in the room, so this is the reason why. But nobody's nobody's saying all in favor of voting Notre Dame ahead of Miami because of A, B, and C. They're just, the losses do matter. The quality of wins do matter. The overall schedule strength matters. Eye test, however somebody wants to define that, matters. It's just every single combination of teams that you're trying to compare is going to end up looking a little bit different, or this one factor is going to matter more than another. So it is hard. This is why I like computers to decide this stuff. This is why I want to bring back a formula of some sort. I these last few years I have been just kind of for my own entertainment more than anything trying to piece together kind of a BCS-ish kind of formula where it's half polls and half my resume SP plus measure, strength of record, a little bit of quality measure like SP plus itself and whatnot. And right now both Notre Dame and Miami are about exactly where they're supposed to be in the rankings. So I don't have a problem with how things have played out so far.
What's the biggest out of the last week's rankings? I guess what would be your biggest gripe, so to speak, based on the data versus what the committee has slotted? Yeah,
I think, well, number one, rank James Madison, probably rank North Texas too. It's getting kind of ridiculous. I get that, we turned strength of schedule into such like a manhood competition. Like you weren't man enough to schedule harder, where, if James Madison had been invited into the ACC, I'm pretty sure they would have accepted and their schedule would be a little harder. So the fact that they're still not ranked is silly. I mean, this little formula thing that I do has them both like 19th and 20th or 20th and 21st or something like that. So they should be in the picture. They should probably be ahead of Tulane, which
say higher than Tulane, which is how they're.
Yeah, I mean, Tulane got those power conference wins on the schedule, but number one, they still, Duke's okay and Northwestern's okay, but it's not like they beat a top 10 team. And meanwhile, like Miami, they spent a good portion of October looking pretty mediocre. So I mean, I think I kind of hate the way mid-majors are. Like, you really have to have that card to play. It doesn't matter how good you are. You have to have the card to play in terms of who you scheduled 5 years ago. And that just, I kind of hate that, the way we talk about mid-majors in general. Other than that, it's the biggest disagreement between this little formula thing and what I've been doing is Oregon. From a strength of record perspective, from an eye test perspective, they've been a borderline top 5 team. But obviously Penn State fell apart after playing them, and they've kind of gathered themselves since, but you're not going to get any credit for beating Penn State. And Oklahoma State 10 years ago or whatever, when they scheduled that game, was awesome, and now is like the worst team in a power conference in ages. Well, that's not, Purdue last year is probably about the same, but still really bad. Really bad team. And
somebody saw Purdue play live. They were bad.
I mean, so like they did their part putting together a decent schedule, and the schedule fell apart on them, and they were kind of being punished for it. So didn't love that, but we'll see what happens this week when they, with the USC win, that might bump them a little bit in the positive direction. But really, I just, in general, it's a lot harder to complain when we have so many at-large bids and more teams to pick. So I've been kind of, the fact that we've had to make this Miami Notre Dame thing this big a deal when Miami lost twice to unranked teams not very long ago kind of tells you that we've lowered the bar a little bit in a good way.
What I guess is the metrics with Notre Dame. You mentioned sort of the close losses. Is there anything else about the way that they played that you think has really made them as solidly a the top 9 team as they seem to be across not just S&P Plus, but everywhere you look? There seems to be no debate at all about like how good Notre Dame actually is.
It's shocking how explosive Notre Dame is this year, especially if you watch them make the national title game last year with the fewest possible number of big plays and nothing but sideways passes, pretty much. I do a lot of what I do when I'm just trying to break teams down, writing previews in the middle of the season or whatever, is looking at efficiency and explosiveness. Like, I use my success rate measure for a lot of efficiency things, which is just, how frequently are you getting 50% of your yards on first, 70% on second, 100% on third or fourth. They're 28th in that, which I don't think is as good as last year, but they're first in yards per successful play. If you only look at the good plays, how good are they? They're not gaining 5 yards on first down, and they're gaining 20 yards on first down. And, that has made such a big difference, especially when you think about, how young the quarterback is, or was at the beginning of the year anyway. He's obviously had plenty of reps now. But those receiver transfers, especially Fields, have just been game changers in terms of Notre Dame's ability to just stockpile points, easy points. And that makes them a very, very interesting team heading into the postseason.
One of my favorite stats is your post-game win expectancy, especially for gambling purposes. It's always very eye-opening, like, oh, wait, this should have happened, but did it? As best as you can you share the sausage-making process with that and how you come about it and, ultimately what it means in your eyes?
Yeah, so basically, post-game win expectancy for me, I mean, a lot of people calculate it differently now. It seems like there are a few of us out there doing it. For me, it's just basically the predictive stuff that eventually goes into SP plus, success rates, just the things that are more sustainable. Like you can obviously lose a game with -5 turnover margin, but if the other team recovered every fumble and had got its hands on 3 passes, but picked all 3 of them off instead of breaking them up. Things like that. Like that doesn't have to mean you're good or bad. But looking at down-to-down consistency and everything is a good way of approaching it. So yeah, my post-game win expectancy number is basically taking all those little predictive things, like success rate, looking at the game as a whole and basically saying, with these stats that this game produced, you would have won this game X% of the time. Just so we kind of know, because I mean, you could have won with a 1%. I think that's what Vandy's win over Alabama last year was. And the other day, 9 days ago or whatever, when OU beat Alabama, it was like 5% or something like that because they needed a pick 6. They needed, all these very specific wins while losing most of the plays in the game. And so, looking at Notre Dame's schedule, when you see like they've won 9 games, 8 of them have had 100% post-game win expectancy, and one was at 99. The closest game was USC at 99%. That tells you that they've just been manhandling teams. They have not been leaving anything for doubt. And that's what I like to see. The 2 losses early in the year were both in the 30s. They basically played out about how they should have in terms of that expected the post-game win expectancy, expected scoring margin, and whatever. Since then, they've just been they've left no doubt whatsoever.
I was interested to get into the book a little bit because I mean the topic is interesting. College football is it's the best sport because it feels just chaotic at all times, kind of as a feature, not a bug. But there's the premise of the future of college football taking on that subject when the future of college football seems to change every 6 weeks.
Yeah, so there's no definitive guide to the future of college football in this book. That was a bold title, and you're not going to see any definitive answers in there. But the idea of the book really was to, because so much changed so fast. We spent decades just arguing about stuff that never actually changed, and then everything changed within about a 3-year period. And I started to realize that things were happening so fast that I didn't really have a vision of where things should go anymore because you're just reacting. So being able to step back, books are great for that. Being able to step back and kind of tackle one topic at a time, look at how we got here in terms of conference realignment and arguing about playoffs and paying players and the relationship of the sport with television and all these other things. Just being able to kind of isolate them one by one was a really useful experience for me. And then I try to spin things forward as much as possible. We know the near future, we know how things are taking shape in that, 2 conferences have arranged to hoard all the money and most of the influence and just really, really try to cordon off the rest of the sport. And I haven't really made a secret of the fact that I hate that and I hate the way things are trending. But just trying to basically accept that as the near future and talk about what the things that maybe we should be pushing for long term. And I liked it. It was a useful experience for me writing the book. So hopefully people got something out of it too.
How did you take a step back? How did you carve out this kind of path for yourself? I mean, you went to Missouri. Obviously, a lot of people in sports media from Missouri, but not necessarily as analytically inclined as you are. Everyone knows Bill Connelly, SPP Plus. You've kind of become the new age Phil Steele, if you will. How has that I meant that as a compliment. Sorry.
Yeah, he's very highly.
No. I've ever Phil Steele going back to whatever 95 was it the first 4 or 5 something like that. Yeah.
So how'd you find this and build this path for yourself?
Well, I think so. Basically, I was, I was original message boarder back in '99, discovering tigerboard.com to yell about Missouri and everything. But within a few years, it was a message board, and it followed the path of every single message board that has ever existed. And after a few years, you're arguing about the same things every single time, and every loss is the exact same response, and factions form, and all the silliness of all that. Started to realize that blogs were pretty cool when it came to not necessarily controlling the message, but at least the subject matter a little bit. So started a Mizzou blog in 2007. Realized very quickly, I started it in February, realized very quickly I had nothing to talk about over the summer. So, I was like, well, I like advanced stats. I like baseball stats. I hate baseball, but I love baseball stats. So what's out there for football? And, you Google college football analytics in 2007 and, nothing happens. Like Brian Fremeau had just started at Football Outsiders within a few, like the months before, I think, but he was doing drive level stuff. And I was thinking like baseball wise, like what's an on base percentage for football and whatnot. So I just started fiddling there and, had the Mizzou blog, started a Mizzou blog at exactly the right time to start a blog period in sports, got hooked up with SB Nation that fall, got hooked up with Football Outsiders the next year, and just spent 3, 4, 5 years just kind of experimenting, then started full-time with SB Nation in 2011. So that's when it kind of took off. SP Plus started in 2007, but it probably wasn't good till about 2013 or so at the earliest. But it was just a perfect space for, a whole bunch of like-minded people writing about their teams all at the same time, and me being able to, share stats with all of them and whatnot. It ended up being a really fun process.
What do you think the biggest change, and maybe focus more on the last 4 or 5 years with S&P Plus in terms of like evolving the formulas, where it's, I don't know if maybe more predictive, but like as the sport changes, how you analyze it changes too. So how have, curious in the last few years how that's kind of you've adapted it?
Well, finally getting, for years, I was just trying to figure out new ways to wring information out of like a line of play-by-play, so-and-so pass incomplete to so-and-so. And, it was fun in that, you're really trying to, figuring out a way to talk about how far offenses are spread out by the frequency of like solo tackles and whatnot. Like we came up with a lot of stuff, but now the information just exists. We know how far every pass is. We have sports info solutions at ESPN. Obviously PFF has a lot of this data for a lot of people, and that just having that second level of data, I think, changes a lot because you're not guessing as much. There's a lot more specifics, not to say everything or whatever, but you just have a lot more to lean on if you think this team isn't going deep enough. You know exactly how frequently they're going deep, stuff like that. So that just helps a lot. I do think it's having just a lot more information at our fingertips just makes me a little more confident in what I'm writing about. Even if I guess the counter to that has been injuries are a lot harder to figure out now than they were 6 or 7 years ago. So that just balances out too, I guess. But no, just the level of stats is completely different and it's a lot of fun.
How much do you focus on individuals? I'm talking Heisman here. Like, I'm not sure if you're a voter or not, but I'm sure you have your opinion on it. And how accurate, how much are you weighing all this in regard to determining who the best individual football player is in the country?
Yeah, I think I'm a lot better at teams than individuals as a rule. Just I joked a long time ago that I think I watched the game with blurred vision, like just see kind of where things are moving, but I'm not, the individual technique. I wasn't that great of an athlete when I was growing up, so I don't have any sort of technique background except in tennis. So, but that said, it has been fun these last few years. In my Sunday columns, I do what I've called the Heisman horse race, where I basically just every week I list the top 10 of the week, and you get 10 points for number one or whatever, and then at the end of the year, see how it plays out. Until last year, it was doing really well in picking the eventual winner, but last year I had Ashton Genty way ahead of the field. Because Travis Hunter was more of a vibe than an actual stats producer. And then this year, I think Diego Pavia actually just moved into number one ahead of Julian Sayin, and Mendoza's a few spots back. Mendoza I do have a little problem with because it has been like his stats are great, but they don't stand out at all. And so it's been confusing to me that he's kind of become the de facto favorite, has like minus 320 or whatever odds to win it right now, when his Heisman moment came at the end of a very poor performance against Penn State when Sayin had torched them the week before. So I don't know. I think I probably lean on stats too much when it comes to Heisman to answer your question. But yeah, this race has been a little weird for me.
I was going to say it looks a little more ordinary without Jeremiah Smith, the Cardinal Tate, the last couple of weeks.
But and that surprised me last week because I'm like, man, this guy is not looking all that good. And then you look and he's like 9 for 12 for 95 yards in the first half. I'm like, okay, well, that's still pretty good.
The CJ Carr Syracuse line, yeah.
Right, exactly. Did he even throw 12? I don't remember. Like, I don't remember a single pass.
9, I think.
It's just
no.
Run after.
So, I mean, you mentioned sort of like the next level stats, and we have access to so much information. Like, it's kind of a weird question, but like, what's your favorite stat? Like, like whether it's be like a play efficiency or, like what there's like, I just love that one.
No, I think, I have come to lean further and further on success rate with passing time, just because there is so much unstable. Like every coach in the world will tell his team that turnovers and big plays win games. And they're absolutely right. But you can't just say, now go out and make more big plays. The thing that's actually completely in your control is the down for down consistency. It really is the most predictive thing that I know of, really, and it really does power a decent percentage of SP plus overall. So that's a good one. Like that's the first thing when the stats all get uploaded on Saturday night and I wake up Sunday morning, that's the first thing I'm looking at in a lot of cases and I know Parker Fleming on social media will do that. Stats of War will post his his little table of all the success rates and whatnot. But that's exactly where my brain goes to, is like a
big comical for Notre Dame Syracuse. If you saw that,
God,
chart this week.
That was I watched like 4 plays from that game. I gave up on that one real fast. But no, I mean, that is really, the wins count at the end of the day, but like just looking at how many plays your team won versus the other team will tell you a whole lot. And so that's kind of where I always start. As far as the measures I've created, since I pilfered that one from Football Outsiders, I will say that my favorite is something we're going to put out in December. I did it last year. The Dog in Him quarterback rating.
Oh yes.
We actually spoke a lot about that on this pod.
Yeah, we had Ian Book on the show because I think he was.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he was an all-time Dog in Him guy. Yeah,
and he was like, "What's this again?"
So he was like legitimately excited. Like he doesn't care much about individual stuff. He's like, that's one where I'm like, yeah. It
was totally retrofitted to make sure Diego Pavia was number 1 last year, but once he was, then it was fun to look at previous seasons too. And I think I'm going to have in mid-December, I'm going to have just a alternate awards kind of piece with Dog in Him. I'm pretty sure Haynes King might be ahead of Diego this year, but I'm not sure. I haven't looked at the ratings yet.
I'm looking forward to that. We might have to have you back on whenever that drops next month. What if you've done this long enough? If you could take a step back and analyze the data year to year, do you learn anything about coaches as far as like, this guy is actually underrated, or this guy is actually not as good. He's more lucky and happened to be in the right place at the right time. I mean, especially now with hiring and firing season, I'm curious how you evaluate the coaching carousel through pure numbers.
It is funny because, one of the best ways long-term to look at a coach is that, with the post-game win expectancy, if you're 90%, you can kind of add those percentages up over a course of a given year and see basically how many you've won versus how many you probably should have won. And so if you're 90%, that's like 0.9, and you add them all up, and it kind of gives you an interesting story. In the very short term, it kind of tells you who was lucky and unlucky, but over a longer period of time, it tells you this guy always wins a game or two more than he should. And at some point, that's not luck anymore. So over a long period of time, like, Ken Niumatalolo and Bill Snyder would lead the list, which you can definitively say, okay, that's probably real. But if you won a ton more games than you probably should have last year, that probably means you're going to fall back this year. So really kind of an interesting thing. Everything's so small sample. It is hard to calculate anything really with confidence in that regard. One thing I tried to do this off season though, was look at basically for every year that you were a head coach, what did you do versus that school's 20-year history? Like the 20 years before, just in terms of SP plus rating, was it ahead or behind? And this is how I got yelled at by Georgia fans forever, because they thought I had declared that Josh Heupel was a better coach than Kirby Smart. But it was a really interesting, I thought, look at just trying to account for the fact that usually we just rank the guys who have won titles at the top of a list, but they won titles at the schools that are capable of winning titles. And so, like, how are you doing versus that school's kind of historic norm was I thought kind of interesting. So just pulled up the list. So looking at things this way, the last 20 years, the number one coach was Nick Saban, which is a good start. It's kind of like Messi with a soccer stat. If you start with Saban, you're probably looking good. 2 was Chris Peterson. 3 was Kirby Smart. But then 4 was Gary Pinkel, which I, of course, as a Mizzou guy loved. But I thought that put things into an interesting perspective there. You go further down, you got Urban Meyer, Jim Harbaugh, Bob Stoops. James Franklin was 8th, which when I run them again this offseason, it'll be a little lower. But, it was just kind of interesting. Bobby Petrino was up there. Lane Kiffin was up there. Brian Kelly was 18th out of 20, which is good, but not spectacular, I guess. But I just, I thought that was interesting. I want to play a lot more with that data moving forward, preferably in a way that just doesn't get me yelled at by fans for saying their coach stinks.
Last thing for me, I think that every year there's the blue chip ratio comes out, and there's these are the teams that can win it. This is where you have to be be a title winner. For S&P Plus, do you have an equivalent of that? How many? And I don't know if you look at the sport and think this is how many teams have a realistic shot of doing it.
It will be kind of interesting because in theory, you can just kind of put the benchmark at you need to be at least this level to win 3 to 4 playoff games. But yeah, I don't know. That is kind of an interesting thought moving forward. I'm pretty sure the answer is you got to be really, really high, because you're going to have to beat an Ohio State and a Georgia and, a good or very good other team as well. But that is, I always love Bud's framing on that, where number one, he always admits at some point, maybe this won't happen, but it really is good to basically say over the course of 16 to 17 games, your stock of talent needs to be hit at least this level if you're going to have a chance. And, he's been right every year that he's done it so far.
Awesome. Well, Bill, appreciate the time. That's Bill Connelly. Forward Progress, the definitive guide for the future of college football. You can get it wherever books are sold. Bill, happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for joining us.
Take care.
Thanks again to Bill Connelly from ESPN for joining us to talk about his book and much more. We will get to a few of your questions here in a second. Before we do that, I want to thank our friends at DraftKings. Conference titles, playoff hopes, Heisman statements, everything is on the line. A single loss or bad performance can end it all, and no one gets you closer to the college football action than DraftKings Sportsbook, the number one sportsbook for live betting. New customers, this one is for you. Bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code INDEPENDENT. That's code INDEPENDENT and turn $5 into $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. Pass-through of per wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. Shall we get to questions?
Let's do it.
Taharat Ratek. Thanks for listening while I work out. Happy to motivate you. Looking at us will be the ultimate kick in the ass you need to do better in your life. Calder's Brian. Red Bull vodka and 20-minute halftime nap on deck for Saturday. Sounds good. I don't think I've had Red Bull vodka since high school, but whatever you got to do to stay up that late, it is a very, very late one.
Yeah, it's. I think the Stanford press box is one where I remember them serving beer afterwards. So I'm not sure if I'm going to partake in that one this time.
You could and just go straight to your flight.
Yeah, it'd be straight adrenaline after the game. So just maybe I will. We'll see. That will give people motivation to tune into the live stream.
You could take this one.
Bill Foos, Pete, will you be behind the visitors' side post game? Stanford clear bag policy will preclude me from bringing in a home run and pizza, but I hope to see you post game. I will be down on the field for the last 5 minutes. I think even pregame there is pretty relaxed. So I'll be disappointed if at least we'll set the number at 4. I need to be yelled at by at least 4 people that, hey, I love the independent, go home run and pizza. Home run and pizza will be the code word that you're one of the real ones.
Cold Brian, I'm pretty sure UCF won the civil conflict and left it on the sideline. LOL. That is exactly what happened. And we're still trying to figure out where that actual trophy is. On that same note, Beef Eater ND08, how would you like to be the student manager responsible for bringing the Legends Trophy with you to Stanford? You know, I wouldn't recommend this because I do believe in karma in sports, but the ultimate flex would be like, yeah, we didn't bring it. Yeah, oh, you beat us, we'll send it to you. Like, what's your shipping address? Like, why? You know, it's like there's Notre Dame going to run to the sideline and be like, it's ours. We're keeping it. It's not Paul Bunyan's axe here. Like,
no,
even the Jules Shillelagh, like,
or the Monon Bell, for example. Yeah,
sure.
it's none of those things. So, yeah, I feel like I've never seen the trophy actually after the game before.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't picture it. Like for your earlier example, if you put it right in front of me, I wouldn't be able to identify it unless it was next to something I could identify. Archer 0 Arrow. We'll see how Saturday and Sunday goes, but I'm getting to the point. I like we did there with the Sunday. Well, I'm getting to the point where any team in the playoffs should want to avoid Notre Dame. There might be teams better at this or that, but Notre Dame is all around scary. I agree. I agree with every word you just said. I think it's.
I mean, how often have we looked at brackets and thought like Notre Dame is the team you want to avoid? Usually, we're looking at brackets thinking like, how can Notre Dame avoid Team X? And Ohio State is still very much in that group.
They're the only one in that group, though. Yeah.
That's the only one. It's a group of 1.
Archer 0 Arrow. Matt, can I wager on whether Stanford scores a touchdown in the last minute of the game, like that Chris Paul gif of him nailing a 3 to cut the lead to 41 or something? That's my favorite one. I've used it multiple times. I did it last week when Syracuse scored. I did it when Purdue scored last year in the 66-7 game. Hey, shout out Chris Paul. Just announced his retirement. Good for him. J Carr 2527, best bald player of the year, sponsored by the Independent Podcast. Oh, look, they're making our ideas for us. El Nino Brown 1021, best bald-headed player on the team. Yeah, I think that'd be a great award. That
some research in this one, right?
He says because Carr.
I think I assume it would have to be CJ Carr, right? I think he classified as bald, right? LOL. I don't think there's quite enough traditional baldness at the college level that we could get away. It would have to be like a full-on shaved head situation. We're gonna have to workshop this one.
There's always like an offensive lineman who's like that, right? I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like to get back to, I think Pat Kuntz had a shaved head at some point during his college career. I mean, he would be high on my list of guys. I'm not sure who from this group would make the cut. You know, it doesn't have to be Notre Dame. Obviously, I have to sort of expand that out to other teams on the schedule.
A couple more about the Miami Notre Dame debate, which I think we've covered very, very heavily already. I just had one. Where to go? Taharetek. Again, apologies if I'm mispronouncing this. Your name used to be just Tahara, I think, right? Because I do recognize this name from previous episodes. We'll be arguing about why a 4-loss team to get into the 16 playoff next year. Yeah, and that's what I'm afraid of. Like, as far as I don't think you need to expand. Like, again, more games the better. Like, from a purely like selfish standpoint, I'll watch. It'll be fun. I don't think it's necessary at all, especially when we only have right now 2 years of data to see how a 12 team plays off.
And, on a news item was this week, the College Football Playoff Committee and ESPN agreed to an extension of when they need to figure out the format for 2026. It was supposed to be December 1st. Now it's January 23rd or something, like right after the championship game. So it seems like they wouldn't extend it if they didn't want to expand it, right? I mean, I think it's a reasonable position.
Big Ten wants 24, SEC wants 16. Both those conferences are used to getting what they want. So yes, because they ultimately have the final say.
Yep.
But if they can't agree on a healthy compromise there, are you really going to say, all right, are you really going to say at the end of January, okay, this upcoming season, which would be 8 months from when they make that decision, 24 teams make the playoff? Like, I just feel like you'd have to recalculate so much about what you think you know about college football in that season, even if like you're a quote unquote rebuilding team. You know what I mean? Like if you're a team that's annually on the bubble, and you're like, oh, next year's going to be a rebuilding year, and you're like, oh wait, it's not 12 teams anymore, it's 24. We got a shot. Let's go in the transfer portal now. Like I don't know. I just don't think that's a way to decide these things.
USC would really want to keep playing Notre Dame in that case.
Yeah, really. No kidding. Justin, JK9 Go. Love is a great name too. Very important for Heisman qualification. This is Notre Dame Podcast. Rest in peace, Roger Baldessari, the man who changed Joe Theismann's name to Joe Theismann to make it rhyme with Heisman. No funny business needed with Jeremiyah Love with this one. He is absolutely both got the game and the name to make it there, no matter what. Do you want to get to predictions?
Yeah, let's do it. Last week, I boldly went with Notre Dame 55-0 over Syracuse, which undersold the devastation. I think this one will be closer, but not by a lot. So I like Notre Dame 42-14. Notre Dame's really good. Stanford's not. Notre Dame is really good, and Stanford is a living, breathing college football program. Syracuse was not. So I would expect, it to be 42-7 and Stanford to score in the last 2 minutes of the game. So 42-14.
So that's a Stanford cover. The line is 32.5. I was going to do 42-10, but I did that last week. And I think they're going to try a field goal and maybe even make it. So I'll go 45-10, which would also be a cover. I was going over the awards list. Lou Groza award finalists. Hate to break it.
Nobody.
Notre Dame fans. No, they'll have their own award where they have 3 kickers and one of them actually has to kick for the team in the playoff and be healthy and hopefully make one. But no, I'll go 45-10 Notre Dame. Similar to you. I mean, I don't expect this to be a competitive game because of the combination of the late night atmosphere and that crowd just being like pretty dead all the time. I could see it getting really weird, like another 2-point return or a block kick or something kind of funny. Like I wouldn't be surprised at all to see a crooked number up on that scoreboard when all is said and done. But I'll go with 45-10. That is a Notre Dame cover. They're 32.5-point favorites on DraftKings. The over-under is 50.5 on that as well. Jeremiyah Love, again, is minus 1,000 to score a touchdown. So pretty good odds there. Before I let you go, I have a couple more. How many yards does Love need to have for both of you to house a home run and pizza at 2 a.m. postgame? Justin, again, postgame Stanford live stream. Come see Matt crush an entire home run and pizza in one sitting at 2 a.m. We can absolutely make that happen.
I'll tell you, I will. If there's beer in the press box, I will drink it. I know there's home run and pizza in your freezer. You will eat it.
We know you'll drink it, Pete. I mean, you don't need to say that part out loud. I think we all saw that coming. Oh, here we go. This will get my vote. Rance Mullins stash. Excuse me. J Love Heisman pose with a box of home run pizza as the ball. Sick. He's a rollback athlete, isn't he? Or am I imagining?
No, Jordan Faison is.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
J Love is New Balance, among other things. But yeah, no rollback. So we have very creative listeners. I'm sure somebody could Photoshop Jeremiyah Love carrying a home run and pizza. So that's my challenge to anyone still listening to the show.
That's a great challenge. I am sure that someone can make that happen. I have to include this one because it's from our friend Asap's dad. Bald means sexy in Latin. I took Latin my whole life, and I actually did not know that, but I like it. So appreciate the love on that one. Isn't he? Oh, Aeneas Williams is bald. All right. We're good in there. We're good in there.
Yeah, he could be a candidate. That'd be a reason for him to stick around to pursue the inaugural. We got to come up with a catchy name for it. I'm not really sure.
For the Bald Award, Dome on Domer. Dan Kelly 120. Matt, you keep moving the time of the live show. I need to know the time slot for 2026 so I can build my fall schedule around it. This is a team effort, Dan. I don't call the shots unilaterally. But yes, we are on a year-to-year basis as far as what time and day of the week works best for show. Wednesday is usually best, though, because gives us time to get a guest earlier in the week that we could slot in to the Wednesday show. John Scallon, 7592, another friend of the show. Would you rather see Love win the Heisman or see Notre Dame make it to the semifinals, but you don't know how the season ends? I take the latter 10 times out of 10.
Yep.
But it would be cool to see Love win the Heisman. But yeah, that's our challenge to you. And you can present it to us on social media or maybe just during the live show Sunday morning. A Photoshop of Jeremiyah Love with a home run and pizza box. Maybe striking the Heisman pose. Maybe not. Maybe a pizza in one hand and the Heisman pose in the other. I don't know.
It's up to you. I mean, we have very creative listeners, so I expect their best efforts.
I'll throw one more in there. It's not love related. We've now got a new leprechaun for every sport. How about we have one? We have one of him drinking, albeit not sanctioned by the school. Let's have one of him eating a home run and pizza.
Ooh, I like that too. The challenge should be accepted by our listeners. We gave you an extra day by moving the podcast up to Tuesday, so you have quite a while, and the late kickoff time. Plenty of time to get this done by the time kickoff rolls around. And again, 4 people need to yell home run and pizza at me after the game.
And Pete needs to bring me back an Andrew Luck bobblehead.
Oh yeah, there's a lot, for a game. Maybe it is the Super Bowl. Maybe Marcus Freeman wasn't overstating how important this game is. There's a lot kind of hanging around Notre Dame-Stanford on late Saturday night / early Sunday morning.
A lot on the line. Well, he's Pete. You can follow and subscribe to read his work at The Athletic. I'm Matt. You can subscribe to read my work at the Inside Zone, InsideZoneMF.com. It's busy season for both of us. We love it. Notre Dame men's basketball just started 15 minutes ago against Rutgers in the Players Era. We got Maction at 3:30 this afternoon. It's the best time of the year. You got football and basketball on pretty much all day long, all week long. But we'll see you bleary-eyed and all late night, early morning, Saturday, Sunday. Should be a fun one. I expect all 235 of you who are here right now on Tuesday to be there at 12 a.m. Well, no, it'll be a lot later than 12 a.m. Eastern time, Sunday morning. Looking forward to it. Yeah, it'll be probably closer to 2 a.m. But thanks as always for joining us on The Independent, and we will see you all Sunday morning.